everybody. I'm Jessica Lockhart, the director of the International Institute of Humanology, and I have great pleasure today to be talking about a very, very important topic. I'm going to be doing so with two more experts. I will first mention that the three of us have an agreement with LegalMart. LegalMart is an association of legal workers, especially attorneys and lawyers, who work on helping other young attorneys and lawyers around the world become better at their profession, improve what they do, and find all kinds of tools and information to be the best they can be. One of those tools is the one we're going to be discussing today, and that the three of us are really proud to be offering through LegalMart to all these new lawyers and legal professionals. Before we move on, let me now introduce the three speakers to you. You know me, I'm Jessica Lockhart, director of the International Institute of Humanology, but the two stars of today are Julia Kurt, who is connecting from Istanbul. She is, of course, a mentor and a coach, an author, and has many other interesting things. But today, she's here with us as a mentor for LegalMart. We also have Dr. Anthony Genumis, who is an expert in mentoring. He's connected from Oslo, and he's also very multifaceted and a professional with a lot of new ideas that I'm sure are going to intrigue you. The first thing I want to do is give you the floor, both of you, to ask you what you think mentoring really means. What do you think this mentorship is really about? Because I think there's a lot of confusion regarding this term. Julia, would you like to start? What do you think mentoring really means, or what it is?
Thank you so much, Jessica, for this opportunity, and for everyone, welcome to our listeners. This is really awesome that we can share here some insights. And as Jessica mentioned, we're here on part of LegalMart, and I'm really thrilled to be part of the mentor program. And not only on that, I am mentor in different programs as well, which I'm going to cover maybe later on. But what does mentoring mean for me? Mentoring is really to share our experiences of work, life, business with someone who would need to have some guidance, might have some struggles, or just need advice. It's really a guided conversation, an interactive conversation with people. It's not one way, it's two ways, because as well as the mentee, the mentor learns as well. And we as mentors are really tuning into the mentee to understand what is the struggle or what is the outcome. Doesn't need to be a struggle as well. A mentor or the mentor relationship can be about something that the mentee has set for themselves, a goal to be a better public speaker, for example, right? And we as mentors who are good in public speaking might be the best person to give advice. So I see this as elevating the individual from A to B with our guided and experience sharing, interactive dialogue, which really gets results and where we can see the mentee flourishing.
Thank you, Julia. Anthony, what would you like to add? What do you think it is, and what would you like to say from your own perspective?
Sure. So I think the old phrase, no one is an island, comes to mind when I think about mentorship. And basically that just means that we're all kind of interdependent. And I think that's what mentorship is all about. It's kind of taking advantage of some collective intelligence that we have as people throughout our lives and finding ways of distributing that intelligence, finding ways of disseminating those ideas and those opportunities. So it's really about giving new opportunities to people who may not have those opportunities otherwise.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I would just like to add to this definition. I was trained as a language teacher at a very young age. My father was a teacher trainer. He taught teachers how to teach. And I remember that he used to say that teachers should have a whole box of tools to help their students. That one tool might be worth it or valid for one type of student, but that teachers needed other tools for other types of students. And one of the tools we used back then when I was teaching was mentorship. In that context, mentoring a student or a mentee meant that you were not just sharing knowledge, and that was the key difference. You were sharing the knowledge you had acquired through experience. It was sharing the steps that you had already successfully taken. That was the key. If you're a mathematical teacher, if you're teaching English, you might know the theory, you might know the linguistics of the words, you might know the grammar, and you're sharing that knowledge. But only having learned the language as a second language or having learned mathematics as a student can you really help the student through a mentoring process. And in our opinion, that was the key difference. So whenever we work with clients in the mentoring programs, I'm also a part of many other mentoring programs, what we do is we take that experience that we've lived through and we share it with the ones who have never experienced that, so that they don't have to go and discover a path that we already covered and that we already know how to walk on. So in that case is what I would distinguish between mentoring and other fields or other activities, which brings me to the second question I wanted to discuss with you. There's a lot of confusion in terms. I mean, everybody is doing everything nowadays, and it's quite confusing. What is a mentor? What is a coach? What is a teacher? What is a counselor? What is a... So I would like to open this box of worms and see what you guys think about this and how you would try and compare different modern or fashionable professions with mentorship. And what do you think would be the right type of client for mentorship? That is, in which cases would you choose mentorship over other techniques? Who wants to take the floor?
Can I say something? So I'm just getting, because I'm a coach as well, right? So, and we have learned the coaching and the difference between coaching and mentoring, of course. And there is a difference. A coach doesn't need to come up from a specific field that the mentee is seeking advice. The coach can coach any human, because the coach is an expert in asking open questions. The coach is not guiding. The coach does not even share any experiences from their life. What's important for the coach is to find more about the life of your coachee, of your client. And with open questions, challenging questions, finding the power within the human to unleash, even find their own way. As a coach, I don't even give guidance or any kind of advice what action needs to be taken. The client himself, this person, is actually getting the action plan, and that's important. We hold them accountable as a coach, because what we want them to from A to B. We want them to go from A to B. But it means that the client himself not clear about their thoughts, not even knowing what is the result, what's the goal, what do they want, but they feel unfulfilled. They want to do so, they want to know, they want to change. Then the coach is really good placed, because we are the experts in opening questions, showing rapport, empathy, creating the safe space, which is valid for the mentor relationship as well, a safe space that the client really can open up themselves. And we touch really lives, the hearts of the humans. So that's why when someone is looking for a coach, make sure they're accredited, they have diploma, etc., because it might harm as well. In case of having a real specific goal, meaning I want to be better, and I take again public speaking because that's the easiest one for me, or let's say presentations, or let's see setting up a business from scratch, coming from corporates, because I went through it, I know the steps, then that would be mentor, really knowing, hey, you know what, I want to set up my business, I don't know how, you did it before, please, let's get on. So that will be a good example for a real mentor, because here I share my experience. I even guide, I give them resources, I give them more like, no, you shouldn't do this. Maybe that's a better step. It's like I really direct them. So that's more on the mentor side. So that's the difference between the both. And it really depends on the client, what they want to get out. Mind me, What I do a combination in my session, because sometimes the client gets stuck. So I nudge them a bit with my experience so they get a bit of, light bulb coming up and then can take it forward. So that's me.
Anthony?
Yes, actually, I would love to tell you a story about one of the first times I ever took that role as a mentor. I was early in my career as an academic, and I had come across an advertisement that the UN in Geneva had posted about a hackathon, a hack for health. And I had been studying inclusive innovation for a number of years, so I got super excited about the opportunity. And of course, I could have used that opportunity in a number of different ways. I could have reached out to a colleague who was, on my same level, or even maybe somebody more advanced than me to kind of bring them into that competition and see, could we win? Could we take home the top prize? But instead, I went to my supervisor and I asked her, I said, would it be possible, would you be interested in funding 3 bachelor's students to come with me to compete in that event? And she was thrilled that I wanted to bring my students. So she said, yes, absolutely, bring those students. It would be amazing. So I drugged these 3 students along with me. They didn't know what they were getting into. They just kind of trusted me and said, Anthony, whatever you think we should be doing, we're gonna follow you. So I drugged them into this session, and we had a mix up with our flight. So we ended up in late. We ended up just pouring off sweat. It was the middle of the summer, so we were very bedraggled by the time we got there. Again, we didn't really know what we were coming up against, and we look around the room, and there's teams of 10 PhD students from Turkey. There are teams from MIT. It was an intense competition, and my students were first semester bachelor's thesis students, so kind of imposter syndrome took over immediately. And I took it as my role to kind of take them and carry them through that process, to guide them in the techniques that I had learned in my work, and showcase the value that innovation can have, not merely in this competition, but for their careers. Well, long story short, we ended up taking home top prize, which was super, super exciting. And one of those students actually works with me today. She co-runs this company, Inclusive Creation, that I'm chair of the board, and has done amazing, amazing things. So that mentorship journey can take so many different aspects and evolves along the way. But for me, it's one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life.
Wow, thank you for that story, Anthony. Yes, it's amazing. I just want to add again, because, well, you already gave a lot of information. I just wanted to add that I agree with Julia. I think that real professionals working with human beings, like we do in humanology, should today have that complete box of tools that my father used to teach. And we should not just master one method, one technique, one strategy, because not only do clients need a certain technique to reach certain goals, but some clients might need one technique today and another different technique tomorrow. So the more techniques, strategies, and tools we have, the better we can help our clients. Does this mean that the mentor can only use mentoring techniques or mentoring tools? I don't think so. I think that a mentor should use everything, every trick in the book to help the mentee, because what we want is for the mentee to learn, progress, and reach the goal. And this brings me to one more question that I have. I know that different people use different techniques, different mentoring techniques, and this is related to what I just said. In my own style, I use every trick in the book. I teach or guide or coach or help my clients with whatever I think they might find useful. I also recognize that certain tools are not good for certain clients, and we have to respect that. It's not for me to force the client to adapt to my style. It should be the other way around. I should have a wide, deep, and flexible enough style to mentor the mentees that I'm working with, and not the other way around. That is my own style. But I know that you might have other styles. Let me start with Anthony now, Julia, because I know he does, because we've already worked together before. He has a very unique technique that he likes, favors, and really explains very clearly, that I would like him to briefly mention right now if he wants to.
Yeah, so I'm a huge advocate for reverse mentoring. And what that comes down to is just inverting the traditional relationship of mentor and mentee. And when I say inverting the relationship, what I'm talking about here is in terms of seniority. So rather than it being a junior level professional being mentored by a senior level professional, those roles are inverted. So it's actually a junior level professional mentoring a senior level professional. And I've been on both sides of this coin, and I have reaped incredible benefits in my career by being reverse mentored and being a reverse mentor. So it's a great opportunity to gain insights into your own career path. When you're a reverse mentor and you're sitting there looking at a senior mentee that has taken maybe a path that you're interested in, it's a good opportunity for you to think more critically about your own experiences and really think critically about how you could maybe deviate from their path or find ways of assuming the same critical juncture. So finding ways of getting into the same areas or fields that they were able to get into. Now, the reverse is all the other roles are also really, really beneficial. So when I have been reverse mentored by some of my junior level colleagues, it has been an amazing experience. So one of those examples is a colleague of mine who completely self-taught content creator. Early 20s, he and I met. He dropped out of high school. He doesn't have any degree or any college education, but he is just completely switched on when it comes to these issues of content creation. Well, I'd hit a pivot in my own career. I was leaving academia. I was pursuing more impact-related work. And so we were sitting having coffee one day, and I just asked him kind of casually, what do you think I should do next? And he looks at me, he says, you should start a podcast. I said, no, that's going to be silly. Everybody has a podcast now. I don't have time or energy to go through all of this. I kind of immediately dismissed it. And he said, no, you should really think carefully about this. He said, all you have to do, sit in front of your phone, record 5 minutes, post it on this website, and it'll go out to all the different podcast channels. I said, well, I can do that. I used to be a professor. That's the easiest thing in the world for me is to talk for 5 minutes. I could talk for 5 hours. So I picked it up. I started off with a podcast. I kind of started a YouTube channel after that. Now I have 4,000 followers on TikTok, and I owe that to his advice in that moment, which was about 2 years ago, just sitting there having coffee.
Thank you, Anthony. That's exactly what I meant. There are many different styles. There's many different ways, and there's not one right or wrong way. Julia, what would you like to add?
Well, honestly, I can't anything more to that because it really depends on the client that we are talking to, right? And what the human needs, what are the basic needs. And you see that as an experienced person as well. And I love reverse mentoring because we did that at the company as well. I'm coming from corporates and not in the company context, but once I was made redundant, I created my own company. But you know what? I have no clue how this Instagram thing works. And I was never involved in that, God's sake. Why should I? Right? You're working in a company, you get everything anyways. You're the manager, whatever. And I had someone younger than me, and I asked for her advice. I said, you know what, NJ, I'm sorry. I don't know how to start this, right? I don't know what to do. And she was my mentor, younger than me, experienced in all these social media channels to create consistency, taught me how to do posts, what to write, what not to write, the tags and everything else. And I learned so much from her. Thanks God to her now, for me to post something on Instagram with the correct tags, etc., is just a piece of cake now. And this is what you learn when you have reverse, when you're open, because I don't know everything. I mean, who knows everything anyways? We're not perfect. We're humans and we learn from each other. Someone is more expensive than this, we share the other way around. And mind me, mentoring comes really from the ancient times where the wise old man was sitting around the fire and sharing their own experiences with the youngsters so they can do the same, but then these young people will add more experiences which they will pass on. So it's just perfect. I love mentoring. I love sharing. I love humans, passionate about the whole topic. And yeah, nothing else to add, Jessica.
Thank you, Julia. There's one more thing that I would like to add. Another thing I learned from my father, he was, I think, the best teacher trainer I ever met. He was very advanced. I mean, I'm talking about 50 years ago, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, and he was already doing all these things. Imagine. So one more thing he taught his teachers was sometimes the best teacher or mentor is not the one that knows a lot, but the one that just learned what you need to learn. Sometimes you can be a professor at university, you can be a teacher in school, and there's this kid who doesn't learn something and he doesn't get it, and he doesn't get it. And then you ask a classmate to explain it to the kid, and the two kids talk, and the second kid says, yeah, that's it, I got it. Why? Because when you're so close to the learning process you underwent yourself, it's very fresh in your mind, and you use a different technique that is more adapted to your age group, to your level of knowledge, to many other things. And in that way, we sometimes say, well, mentors have to be this very heavy, well-versed professionals with 50 years of experience. Well, as Anthony said, in reverse mentoring, we do just the opposite. And this is also related to something else I wanted to discuss. Can anybody be a mentor? You know, a lot of people say anybody can mentor somebody else if they've gone through the path. And I agree and disagree at the same time. I say, yes, you can be a mentor in theory and help other people, other human beings, take the steps you already took. But you need some kind of technique. You need some kind of knowledge. You need to know when to deliver some information, how to pace the sessions, how to organize the progress, because unless you're trained and you have some basic knowledge, you might be first confusing your client or mentee, driving them crazy. You might not be giving them enough information or maybe too much information in one session. And it's very important that professionals really become well-trained and become experts in not only what they're going to be mentoring other mentees, but also on the mentoring or mentorship process itself. What do you guys think? Do you agree with what I just said?
Yeah, I would say you've got it spot on. I think the two main skills I would say are vital for a mentor are communication, ability to communicate, and ability to empathize. I find that often with my mentees, they come to me under the presupposition that they want advice and guidance. When in fact, once I've listened to them and I've been kind of heard them and I've given them space to kind of talk about what they're concerned about, they didn't actually need any advice. They just needed to talk through it with someone. They needed to think critically about it. And they just needed maybe some acknowledgement. They just needed validation. They just needed somebody to say, yeah, I get it. I get where you're from. I had this kind of experience. It was maybe a little bit different, but I can empathize with where you're coming from. And of course, I always hold back advice until the other person has given consent for me to give them advice. So I don't just automatically jump in, oh, well, the answer to your problem is X, Y, Z. I ask them, do you need my advice? Would you like me to give you my input? Would you like me to give you what my experience has been? And then if they say yes, then I can go into that discussion about here's some potential solutions to your problem. But I wait until they've actually said, yes, I agree to listening to your advice. So I'm sure that I have at least a reasonably receptive audience or person that's sitting there. So I think those are the two main skills here: communication, ability to communicate clearly, and empathy, ability to understand what the experiences of another person may be.
Thank you, Anthony. Julia?
Well, coming from the coaching thing, first what you do is this listening, and we don't listen good enough. And we call this 360-degree listening. That does mean with your mind, body, and soul, and don't have your head full of questions already or any judgment, whatever. Tune in into the client, see what their needs are, ask some questions in the interest for the client, not even for me. Not even for me. I don't need that information, but the client needs that information. And from there, we pass on to say, hey, dear client, you know, how would you like me to help you? Yeah, let's see what's coming out. And that's really important. Tuning in, showing that rapport, listening 360 degrees, and then continue the conversation. And according to the to a nice balance of maybe mentoring, maybe giving advice, maybe doing something else, but seeing and weighing up your client. The more you know your client, the more you know how they tick. And you can even see, oh, this information would be nice, or I shall give all the information because that person is maybe analytical. There are different types of persons, right? That's it. And yeah, that's what I always first do.
Thank you, Julia. So let me just, for those who are watching this very interesting conversation, let me just clarify that we at LegalMart offer different types of mentoring processes. We offer mentoring on fields that each of us can mentor our mentees in. So we invite everyone to connect onto this website here to check the LegalMart mentorship program and to maybe start working with one of us. Would be more than happy to help you grow as a professional, as a human being, which is always at the basis of your professional career. And I want to thank Anthony and Julia for being here today, for doing this exceptional work with the mentees, and for being a part of this family that is LegalMart. Thank you very much to both of you. And I hope that we can continue collaborating and helping mentees grow in every aspect. Thank you.